Hi, this is Brian Poole. This is a video on how to replace a Gateway M465 laptop screen if it gets broken. Honestly, this is one of the easiest laptop screen replacements I've done. Once I did it, it'll be pretty easy to replicate again. Purchase this screen from www.laptopscreen.com. It's a 15.4-inch widescreen. That's the exact part model, just in case you need it. And this is what the website looks like. Laptopscreen.com has got virtually every laptop screen I've ever needed to replace, and generally it's the best price. By the way, I want to apologize in advance for my videography. I didn't have a tripod this time. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the two screws that hold in the cover where the power button is. We have to remove those two black screws on the back and then flip it over. Okay, so I'm pointing to the part that I want to take off, but before I use my screwdriver to pop it off, the easiest thing is to flip it over with the battery off, and I'm pointing to the snaps that hold them on. If I take a small flathead screwdriver and just pop the bracket off from the underneath, this comes off really easily. So you want to pop those off first so that you don't break the bracket when you do it from the other side. Okay, so once they've popped those off, you can just pop up a little bit with the screwdriver and make sure it's small enough. There's a little spot there underneath that key that pops it up. And then once you've just popped it up a little bit, it'll pretty much lift right out, and you can see where those are. You need to get that off first in order to get the rest of the monitor out. You do not have to take the keyboard out on this one to replace it, so it's a pretty easy one. Now to get to the screws, we're going to have to remove the little rubber bumper covers there that are over the 6 screws. There's 2 on the bottom and 4 on the top. Just remove those 4 screws along the top there and remove the 2 screws on the bottom. Now you're just going to take a small flathead screwdriver and pop apart the 2 pieces that are snapped together, and you have to go all the way around the thing and set it flat and get them all off of there. And then once you're done, it'll just lift off real nicely and you can put it aside. Okay, there are 4 screws that hold on the laptop or the screen itself to the laptop. They are on the 2 on one side and 2 on the other side. They're very small. 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom. You're going to be removing those 4 screws, and then there's 2 other screws as well. Okay, these 2 screws you're going to remove actually first. They're on either side of the bottom, and you need to remove them in order to get the plug undone here that I'm pointing to. So go ahead and remove those 2 screws first. And then we've got those 2 screws removed. You can just remove this and set it aside while you're working on the rest of the screen. Going to go ahead and unplug this. We'll get this plugged back in. That comes with the new screen. That's the backlight for the monitor. And then we're going to remove those 4 screws on the sides. These are the 4 screws that you'll be removing. A small Phillips head screwdriver reaches in there just fine, and I use a number 1 tip on those. Once you remove those 2 screws, there's nothing holding the LCD to the laptop at all, so you'll be able to just bring it down and set it gently right on the keyboard there and be able to do our data cable connection while it's laying right there. Okay, there's a small piece of tape holding the data cable there. We just pull up the tape, and then it just pretty much pulls right out of the old screen. And once you've pulled that out of there, just put your old screen aside, and you can get your new screen and put it right to the same spot that we were just working on to connect it up. Pretty much just reversing the process to put it back together. We pull that data cable right inside there and then start screwing things back together. Data cable in. While it's laying here, you can go ahead and plug in the LCD backlight plug that we unplugged really earlier before we start lifting it up and screwing it back together. Putting those 4 screws back in because I couldn't do that while I was holding the camera, and once I've got those back in, I'm going to put this bracket back in the front. There we go, put it back in the right way and screw that in, and then my new screen is fully mounted into my computer, and I can try it before I screw anything back together if I want to. So I've got those 2 screws back in. I'm also showing where we had plugged the LCD plug back in prior to flipping it over. You can see where that comes through now, where it was before, where we unplugged it. Then we're going to just snap the front cover back on and then replace the 6 screws that we took off before. Make sure you snap it good all the way around before you start screwing it together, and make sure that the hinge lock on the top is where it belongs, and it really, the way we took it apart, that shouldn't be a problem. And then you should be able to just put the rubber stoppers right back where they were before, on covering up the screws. And then we can put the cover plate back on. Remember, we got to snap that on the whole way across. You're going to have to use 2 hands to push that down, and then flip it over and get those 2 black screws, the small black screws that held those on at the hinge point, put back in as well. And after that, we're all done. Replaced a really a high glare one with a matte one here, so that it was a little easier to see for the staff member whose this laptop is. But you can see that everything's working fine, and it was a relatively easy and quick LCD swap out.